the basic definition of a leader is if someone's following you, right? Because if no one's following you, you're not really a leader. I think one of the things that helps as a leader is just the ability to make a decision or decide something and just do it. Some people can take a kick in the pants and get them motivated. Other people need a pat on the back to keep on going.
How do you view your leadership role as responsibility?
You tend to view your employees a little bit like family. They're not family, but it seems like that a lot.
What do you do when you mess up?
And so when things happen, whether it's good or bad, you feel the responsibility of where's the help needed, and that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice way of saying stop being such a bossy pants.
It is. It is.
All right. Okay. So welcome everybody to the first of a series of interviews that we are going to do in conjunction with our series Leading Like Jesus. And so I, Jennifer Stanley, will have the privilege of interviewing several people within our church about different forms and roles that they have as leaders in our community and in their business and in their families, etc. So today I have Roy Padgett, and he is part of our Commonway family. He's also an elder at the church. And so this is going to be really fun. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about him and for you guys to meet him too. So Roy, would you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you lead?
Okay. Yeah, I'm Roy Padgett. Me and my wife, Kim, moved back to Muncie in 2013. And from Fort Wayne, where we'd lived for about 25 years. And we started attending Commonway pretty much from the beginning of that move. Loved the church, loved the area. I moved back here because I'm an owner of, at that time I was an owner, now I am the sole owner of Small Engine Warehouse. We're a company that sells replacement lawnmower engines, and I have about 45 employees.
So how long have you been with Small Engine Warehouse? If you were with them before you moved to Muncie,
Yep.
Has it been years and years, or?
So one of my first leadership jobs was being a parent, right? So we were living in Fort Wayne. I had moved there after college. We didn't want our kids to have to change schools. So interesting story, because it doesn't happen like this a lot, but Kim and I both grew up in homes where we never had to change schools, and our mom was home with us, during the day, and we wanted that for our kids too. And so when I had an opportunity after leaving a couple of nice companies to come back and work for, at that time, was my dad's business. 20 years ago, I decided I can just do the drive. So for 14 years, I drove about 60 miles one way, back and forth from Fort Wayne to Muncie. So when our youngest daughter was finishing up her freshman year in college, we decided, thankfully Kim decided, it's probably time to move. We're pretty much done with the drive. And I didn't mind the drive, but I can tell you it's so much nicer being here and reclaiming some of that time that I was using driving back and forth.
Yeah, that's a big commitment. Okay, so tell us, when did you first realize that you were a leader?
Well, I think part of this is I don't know why, but part of just there's a distinct time in my mind that stands out when I really wasn't in a leadership position, probably mid-30s or so, and I realized after a while that people were asking me stuff, and I was like, I don't know why, I don't know how it happened necessarily, but it did, and then I think one of the things that helps as a leader is just the ability to make a decision or decide something and just do it. A lot of people don't like to make that commitment necessarily. And I was always willing to do that. So that kind of naturally put me at the forefront of, just being willing to lead and willing to make a decision. So I don't know if that's how it started. So it could be because I'm also the oldest in my family. So it could be a birth order thing as well that allows me to be in that kind of position.
Yeah. I'm the oldest in my family too. So, I was bossy. So I guess I was told I was a leader pretty early on, but that's the nice way of saying stop being such a bossy pants.
It is.
And so I love that you have that story where you or that memory of, wait a second, people are looking to me for advice and for decision making, and that's
it's like kind of the basic definition of a leader is if someone's following you, right? Because if no one's following you, you're not really a leader, and so when you start making,
doesn't matter what hat you're wearing, right?
Exactly, it really doesn't. Yep.
That's so true. So tell us a little more about who you lead at your business. How many people, what types of decisions you're making, on the daily.
Yeah. So I'm the owner of the company now, so it's pretty inclusive, but I have a management team of 8 other people. So that's generally who I'm dealing with most of the time, but it's purchasing decisions, it's financial decisions of every kind, it's people decisions. I have people in those positions. I have an HR person, I have a purchasing person, but it's really hard to get completely out of abdicating any responsibility for those roles. So it's like you just naturally gravitate toward where's the help needed, and that's what I do.
Yeah, that's a leader right there. So what would you say is your biggest challenge as a business leader?
I think one of the hardest parts is just managing people in general. When to show grace, when to require accountability, that kind of thing. When do I, be a little harsher with someone? Or when do I need to be a little bit more empathetic? How to manage personalities of, some people can take a kick in the pants and get them motivated. Other people need a pat on the back to keep on going. And it's you don't intuitively know all that stuff, but as you learn the people and as you learn your position, I think you tend to gravitate toward whatever is needed at the time. I think that the tasks that are needed, they can be stressful, they can be work, but the people tasks are the real meat of what kind of makes it difficult anyway.
Yeah, because not any one person is created the same way. And
right.
So understanding the levers that move is...
Yeah, you have to be, like I say, I have 45 employees, so you have to have consistency, right? I can't show special treatment for people, but consistency doesn't mean that you treat everybody in exactly the same way or use the same methods either. So it definitely is the hardest part. Trying to do it right, it is what makes it hard.
Okay, I'm going to spring a question on you here that you don't know is coming. So if your management team and the people in the business, employees, if they had to describe you, what would they say?
Patient would certainly be one of the characteristics. I'm generally pretty calm. A lot of them have seen me angry at times, but that doesn't happen very often. And what's angry for me wouldn't seem angry for a lot of them. Anyway, I display it outwardly a little bit differently. I don't know. That's kind of what comes to mind anyway.
Patient and calm. I like that. That
Yeah.
Those are good qualities.
Yeah.
And then when you have to like heat it up a little bit, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, so he's like, this is important, when that elevation happens just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm a peacemaker by nature, right? So I tend to avoid conflict. So that's part of where some of the patience and calmness comes from.
Yeah, I get that. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about, Matt referenced a book that Patrick Lencioni wrote called The Motive. And I know it's a book that you've read. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts on reading the book, of course, because I found out that you have read it, but also how do you view your leadership role as responsibility and responsibility rather than this like reward, because now you're such and such age and you just deserve to be in this leadership role. And so this is like a reward you get towards, the middle end of your career. And as opposed to that, and it's this deep responsibility. And so how do you see that play out? And what are your thoughts on this book?
I guess, first of all, I think I've always seen it as a responsibility. It's not easy, taking responsibility for something, whether it's leadership, like I talk about, I'm a dad, right? There's some definitely responsibility there. There's certainly rewards as well. I've been a Sunday school teacher, before, and again, you get different kind of rewards for positions like that, or president of my neighborhood association. It's a very thankless job. You don't do that for the rewards kind of stuff. So I guess I think I've always kind of seen it that way. Like I said, it's about, I own a small business, and like a lot of small business owners, you tend to view your employees a little bit like family. They're not family, but it seems like that a lot. And it's when things happen, whether it's good or bad, you feel the responsibility of, I'd like to reward them, or what happens if we have to make cuts or something. And it's a very difficult decision to be in. I've never been one to. I just don't like the "you deserve that" phrase. It's like, I don't, I don't feel really that way at all. It's not really been my nature. So, kind of maybe take more responsibility than what most people even expect, but kind of take that on maybe a little too strongly at times even.
Yeah, I guess you could go a little bit to the unhealthy end of that spectrum too.
Right.
So do you have an example of a time in your business where you had to take responsibility for something and it was hard? And
this was a family business, and there've been a couple of events where, like I said, I'm the sole owner now, and I've had issues that have come up with my dad and my brother in the past that didn't necessarily turn out like what I would have wanted, or even what I expected. But the responsibility for the employees is kind of the driving factor of why I'm still here. I felt it was in their best interest for me to be there. Because it's hard when you're looking at something like that where I can either do this and I can get a reward, or I can stay and get maybe some rewards. And so those are tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't have a framework for saying how much of this is selfishness and how much of this is responsibility when I look at just myself. But when I took a step back in those situations, say, okay, what's best for the employees here? And that one was pretty clear cut, that I should stay. And that actually helped me to make decisions in those two instances.
Yeah. So what did you think of the book? You said, tell me, I said, I said, hey, Roy, so, we're going to start talking about leading like Jesus. And there's this great book that's called The Motive. And you said immediately, oh,
Yeah, Matt told me about the book last week, and it's like, well, I'm at a point here where I'm working from home for 10 years now, right? I mean, things are different than what it has been before, and it's like I haven't read anything on leadership in a while, and this sounds really interesting. The 1 minute that Matt told me about the book, so it's like I should probably read that. So I downloaded the Kindle version last Tuesday, and then I finished it on Wednesday, and it was just a great story. And he uses a fictional account. 80% of the book is a fictional story that he uses to illustrate his points about basically what a CEO should be doing. Mm-hmm. And so I found it very interesting, but worse than I found it convicting as well. So so that's why it definitely was helpful for reading, and it gave me especially a couple of points that oh yeah, I definitely need to be doing that better. Definitely need to be doing that better. So,
well, I'm picking up on the fact that you are are we still recording, Roy?
Yep, still shows recording.
Does? Okay. Oh my goodness. I thought, oh no, have we lost the recording? Okay. Whew. I am taking notice that you, as a leader, obviously you are continuing to grow and learn and like picking up, gosh, I could do that better. I want to read a book, and I respect that a ton. So that's awesome.
I did a lot of that when I was younger, but I haven't had the time to do that, or had necessarily even felt the need lately, even though sometimes you feel it more strongly than others, but this just gave me an opportunity to pick up some things that I hadn't explored for a while.
Yeah. And if you've never read a Patrick Lencioni book, they're very quick read. They're entertaining, yet really, really poignant messages.
Yep.
So
yeah, they read like a fictional story with a message, kind of like a parable, right? I mean,
yes, he's a parable teller. That's right. That's right. He's a parable teller, and he's a believer too. I mean, he doesn't advertise that in a lot of what he does, but he is a believer, and so his leadership mantra really does stem from this leading like Jesus would. And so that definitely brings me to just my question about, how does being a Christian, how does being a believer, a follower of Jesus, a man who's pursuing a life that looks like Jesus and that honors him, how does that affect your leadership in your business, in your family, at your neighborhood association? And obviously you're a leader in, I should have said this earlier, but you're obviously a leader in our church at Commonway. As an elder, you're very much a piece of our leadership team there. So how does that intersect with those different areas?
Yeah, I think especially at work, I think one of the things that's most forefront of my mind a lot is just to, what's my testimony to people? They see actions more than words a lot of times, and so what would Jesus do is not just a cliche, right? I mean, people actually are looking at you, especially if they know something about you, so that certainly is one of the things, and showing grace, like Jesus did. I mean, that's something that's always on my mind of, how do we do that correctly? I think some of the harder things is knowing that there are things I don't do like Jesus did, right? Because my peacemaking is really conflict avoidance, and Jesus is the Prince of Peace, right? He does it completely different from what we do a lot of times, and Jesus didn't worry about trying to gather a crowd, trying to increase his Instagram followers, things like that. He just wasn't worried about Are you going to follow me, or are you not? I mean, he asked about it, but he wasn't just trying to drive numbers. And it's really hard, I think, as a leader sometimes to completely ignore what people think about you and just do what you know needs to be done. And that, when you read the stories of how Jesus did it, it's like it's amazing, and he pulls it off every time. It's like I don't feel like I can quite do that a lot, So
Well, he made a lot of people mad too.
yes, he did.
He did.
He did.
He did leave some people kind of mad. That would be hard for a person who values peace and
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so the negative examples kind of stick out as much as some of the positive examples sometimes.
Yeah, so you kind of have to lean into like, okay, this isn't my nature, so how am I going to do this in the best possible
Right, exactly.
possible way? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's I think what you're saying about if people know you, like if you're living an open life in front of your team,
Yep.
and they know who you are, and they know you're a believer, and they know they're just watching. And
Oh yeah.
what do you do when you mess up? Because you don't do it perfectly, and there are days that do not go like you hoped. And so what happens then?
Yep. Then you got to be ready to own it and apologize, to talk through about kind of how things happened, what I can do differently. You can't hide behind those things, because like I said, we are going to mess up, and that's one of the hard things about being a leader, being a parent, right? In any job, is you don't always know that am I doing the right thing? I mean, I think this is correct, but I don't know if it is, and so sometimes it just goes sour. It was the wrong decision, or the wrong timing. And how do you get out of those situations with grace? Do better the next time, because that's all you can do. We can't. You ask for a do-over, because I can't change what the mistakes that we've already made.
Yeah, but you can learn from them, move forward.
Yep.
And I like what you said, because it's kind of like when you said you have to own up to it and ask for it. It's that responsibility again. It's taking even responsibility for when it's you that personally, has a failure or whatever. So,
well, like I said before, one of the things that go along with the rewards when things go good is you also have the consequences when things go bad, so both of those things happen, but if that's your driver, if the rewards are your driver, then the consequences are going to be, that's going to be even worse for you, I mean, because if all you want is the good stuff, you certainly aren't going to like the bad stuff at all.
Right. That's so true. So I guess what would you say is your driver?
I think responsibility is a good word. I feel like, I don't know if it's a calling, but I feel like this is the place to be,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like jobs I had previously, and then the experience I've gotten into, just being, in this job for so long, have kind of landed me right here, I mean, feel like, God put kind of signposts in the way of, go this direction, or you need to learn this, and then you can move on to the next thing. And, so from that standpoint, it feels like a calling that God did certainly lead and directed me in getting here, I feel.
Yeah. I think that's the current that you want, is you want to feel like, well, there's purpose in this, and this is where I'm supposed to be, in the good, in the hard, in the bad. It feels good to feel like you're where God says you should be. So, okay. Well, is there anything else you would like to share about leadership, about leading like Jesus, about anything?
I thought about that question a lot, but it's like, I think part of the Another one of the difficult parts about being a leader is just having to adapt. Even a question like that, I don't know what situations are going to come up, right? And so you have to be willing to just kind of step into whatever it is. We're going to move forward. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into yet. I don't know where this question is going, but I'm going to find my way through it and answer it, right? And that's how a lot of situations come up. In the same way is, if you're a leader, you got to be willing to just keep moving forward. And like I said before, you're going to make mistakes. You'll learn from those, but you keep on going, because part of that being a leader is that there's other people that are following me, and I hope that I'm doing it right, so that I'm not leading them in the wrong way either. So just try to find a way to keep going and making it positive for the group that you are trying to lead.
I love it. That's perfect. And just to fill everybody in, as this is our first interview of the series, I told Roy, I'm not a podcast interviewer, but I listen to podcasts. So There we go. What else do you need to know? All right. Well, thank you so much. And I just appreciate your leadership, not only in Muncie, in the Muncie community, and the people here, but also in our church and all that you do as an elder. So thank you.
Thanks.
All right, cool.